Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Deep Dive Perspective. We're here discussing an absolutely vital issue, something of global concern, something which should really turn the entire planet on its head if it gets out of control. And that issue is Zionism, Judaism, and West Asia. We've seen the proliferation of conflict in that region for many years, but the way it's been driven today is absolutely unprecedented, with invasions of neighboring territories, with the genocide in Gaza, with the ethno-cleansing of Palestinians across West Bank as well as the Gazan region, the confrontation with Iran, the out-and-out effort to create a regional war has never been more apparent. At the heart of it is Benjamin Netanyahu and his establishment. And what comes into question is really that originally we had a scenario where Europe basically persecuted the Jews in Europe, landed them in West Asia, and have transferred an entire problem, an entire issue, which they first of all dealt with through all kinds of pogroms and all kinds of persecutions, and have now handed that problem to an area which was traditionally very supportive of Jews, very, very fraternal. The Muslim world has an exemplary reputation in terms of the way it handled its Jewish relationship right from the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But today we find ourselves in a situation where Jews themselves are being labeled almost as terrorists because of Israel, because of Zionism. How is this impacting Jews across the world? What impact will Israel's genocidal efforts leave as a legacy for the Jewish communities up and down all sorts of different nations where they've found homes for many, many centuries? Is it possible for the Jewish community to recover from the damage which Zionism is quite clearly doing? With me in the studio to address these questions and much more, I have Rabbi Elhanan Beck of the Neturei Karta organization, and we also have with us online via Skype from Belfast, Fra Hughes. Welcome to the show, Fra. You're head of Palestine Aid. You're an activist, as I understand it, an online YouTuber, no less, and also very much an author. And My Walk with Palestine, I think, is one of the books that I've read of yours. Welcome to the show. And I guess now we'd really have to delve into what the real fundamental issue is. And Judaism, Israel, and today's crisis in West Asia, I have to ask the question, first of all, with the origins of Zionism, its relationship with the Jews of Europe in particular, and the actual relationship that is evolved between Zionism and Judaism, and in what way that happened. The guess I'm having, and one of the things which often gets ignored, is that it's possible that the Jews were the first victims of Zionism. This is an argument that I've heard. This is your field, Rabbi. Could you enlighten us?
Yeah, well, look, I will try to start it from the beginning. I will try to make it short. We have to understand what is Judaism and what is Zionism fundamentally. Judaism is a religion. It's not a race. It's not a nationality. It's a pure religion. God have gave us the Torah on Mount Sinai for 3,500 years ago. Since then, we're becoming the Jewish nation. The nation of Jews is not when we have a land or when we have a language or so on like this. The Torah was given in the desert, but the Mount Sinai is in the desert. Jews have no land at that time. And our rabbis explain this is why, because God wants to show that Judaism, the united of the Jewish nation, is not by a land, is not by a language. This is only by the religion, by the belief in God. So I understand for my Muslim brothers, they will understand it much better. If you will describe what is Islam. Islam is a religion. Anybody who believes in these principles of Islam he is a Muslim. Everybody is not believing that, he's not a Muslim. Somebody will say, oh, I'm a Muslim. You will ask him, you are a believer? He say, no. So you're not a Muslim. He will say, how you can say that? My father and forefather, 10 generations already are Muslims. He will ask him again, you believing or not? He will say, no. I'm sorry, you are not a Muslim. No different. And if somebody converts to Islam, the next day, the same Muslim as you. Because it's not, Islam is a religion, it's not a nationality. It can happen that Muslim people gather together in the heaven land. It could be the land running by Muslim law, by Muslim rulership or something like that. But Islam, it's not nationality. Islam is a religion. The same thing with Judaism. Judaism is a religion, have nothing to do with any nationality. You can be Jew as a white, as a black, as a Japanese, Chinese, no difference. Everybody who converts to Judaism, he's the same Jew as me. Everybody who gone away from Judaism, he is not counted as a Jew. This is not my word. This is the word of Rabbi, one of our greatest rabbi. His name is Maimonides. He's very well known in the Arab world also. And in Sanhedrin, Perek Chelek, he puts down the 13 principles of Judaism, and then he makes clear, everybody is not clear in these 13 principles, he's not counting as a Jew. So, see very clearly. I must add to that he's still obligated to keep the Jewish religion. He will get punished on the other world. They will be required, why you didn't keep the religion. However, people, he didn't come from Jewish parents and didn't convert to Judaism, God didn't ask them to keep the Torah. He can keep the 7 laws of Noah.
So is your argument that Zionism has forsaken Judaism?
Yes, I'm coming 1 second to the type of Zionism. This is Judaism. Judaism is a religion, have nothing to do with a land. It can happen that Jews have a land. But not this is Judaism. Judaism is a pure religion. Now we come to the point of Zionism, what you ask. I'm sorry. Zionism is a new movement, 130 years, 150 years old. I didn't remember, I think 150, 130 years old. It's founded by Theodor Herzl. He coming from Vienna, Austria. He was completely an unbeliever. He was an atheist completely. And even people today, they are not so religious, but they have still a few things what they're keeping. One of the last thing what even secular Jew is keeping is a circumcision for the babies. But he didn't make a circumcision for his own son, and he was proud of that. So Zionism is completely a secular movement where they have a different look on Judaism. They try to transform Judaism from a religion into a nationality, into a materialistic nationality. Like if somebody will say Islam means having a Muslim, a country, you don't have to keep the religion, you don't have to believe in the Muslim principles, put the name of Islam on that, speak Arabic, I don't know, something like that, and then you are a Muslim. Yes, this is fake Islam. Yes, the same thing in Judaism. Zionism try to take Judaism out of context, transform that into a nationality, in making a land with a language, then you are a good Jew. No different if you keep the religion or not. This is completely fake Judaism. I say every time for the Palestinians, the Zionists took away your land, they're occupying your land and they took it away from you. From us, they take away our identity, they take away the religion, they take away they take the Jewish religion, empty it out from all the holiness and fill it in with materialistic, nationalistic ideas. They do for us, I mean, of course, it's terrible what's going on in Palestine, but for Jewish people, they take away the whole religion. The whole religion. Just imagine if somebody will do that with Islam, empty it out and transform that into a nationality. He will be your biggest enemy, much more than it took away your land. That's what they done for the Jewish people, really. So Zionism, I will try to explain it a bit more and more deeply to understand. And really, I will touch a point what I have to speak later, but I bring it up just to understand it better. The Zionists, you find them often waving the flag of the promised land. Promised land. And they bring verses of the Torah of the promised land. It's true that God promised land for the Jews. However, when you look in the Torah, it's very clearly, this is only conditionally, if we keep a high level of life. If not, it's written in the Torah more than 30 times that we will be exiled of the land. God gives us the land only if we keep a high level of life. If not, He will take it away. One of them is in Vahoyam Shemoya. We say that in Krishma every day a few times. What God said that if you will not keep the high level, you will be exiled of the land. And that's happened twice. One by the Babylonians and then by the Romans. God sent the prophets for us to repent, and He warns us to exile us from the land. And when you look in the book of Jeremiah, the end of the book, you will see we were exiled by the hand of God. This is the Jewish belief. We are now in exile by divine decree. Going out of exile means a rebellion against the Almighty. It's like if a father say for a child, please, you are bad, stay in the corner for 10 minutes. He coming out. What means that? That means rebellion. Couldn't care less about you, about your punishment. The same thing when God sent us in exile. Going out of exile by force is a rebellion against the Almighty. This is the Torah view on the exile. When God sent us in exile, we have to stay in exile like good children. Jews are believers. We are loyal in God. This is not only Judaism. Every religion, the first step of a religion, to be loyal to God. Believing God. Believing don't mean when it's light. When it's light, you see. Believing means when it looks dark. Then believe in God. Everything is for you favorite. Everything what God do is for you favor. Believe in that. Even if it looks dark. So the same thing, because sent us in exile. We're staying in exile. We are not rebellion against God. We are loyal to God. This is Judaism, what Judaism stands for. Zionism, from the other side, is exactly the opposite. They lost the belief in God. They don't believe in God and they don't trust God. And they say, how long we are staying in exile? If we are not take the situation in our own hands, we will be lost.
So this view is, of course, you're not a majority view within the wider Jewish diaspora. And they also, I assume, regard you as heretical, because you're saying essentially Israel is not legitimate. You're saying that the Judaism being packaged to the majority of Jews is not legitimate. And you're saying basically that Israel should be dismantled and the Palestinians should be owning the land that they had. This is something that you're very much for. How do they react to you, your organization, the Neturei Karta? Are you persecuted for this? Because you have people living in Jerusalem as well, I believe. There is a community.
I want to make clear first thing. As I explained, what means that a Jew, what means that a Zionist, you can understand when we're speaking about what Jews say, what say. First thing, we're not speaking on people, we're speaking what God say. We're looking in a book, what is the Jewish law. However, when you're speaking about Jews, who are you accounting as a Jew? The same as Muslims. If somebody are non-believers, but they still say, we are Muslims, and they will get a majority. He will say, I'm very sorry, you can ask which name you want, go into the root, look, who is a Jew, who not? Who is a Muslim, who not? And then we will speak who the majority. When I speak about Jews, I'm speaking about Jews what are really observant Jews. They're trusting in God, in the following God. People following the Torah, not people what they are secular. Unfortunately, today's day, there are, I think, 18 million Jews. Only 2 of them are religious. So, of course, the majority is not religious, and we are not speaking about them. Even, I must say, that even within the secular Jewish movement, there's still a large number what are against the state of Israel. You can see all the marches here in London. Half of the speakers are Jews. You can see that, the Jewish names. However, I'm a rabbi, I'm speaking from the religious point of view. The religious point of view, I'm speaking about real Jews, people looks like me, this type of people, but they are loyal to God, they are not rebelling against them. Of this type of people, not the vast majority, I can say that 95% of them are strongly opposing the state of Israel. Come in my area, in Stamford Hill, I live here just next to Stocknewington, Finsbury Park. Yes, there are a large Jewish population of thousands of Jews, hundreds of institutes, and you won't find in the whole area even one single Israeli flag. It's not only here. The same thing is in Manchester, in Newcastle, the same thing is in Europe, in Belgium, in Vienna, in the whole world, in New York, in Canada, in Brazil, in Argentina, in Australia. Everywhere you see people looks like me. The real Jews, what are practicing the religion, not so-called Jews, they're not eat kosher in the driving Shabbos, and they're not keep. I'm speaking about real religious Jews, not people call themselves Jews, yes. In these areas, you won't find, in general, a Israeli flag, because all these people are against the state of Israel.
Well, fascinating.
You come in my area, there are no Zionists. We are not persecuted. And we live, by the way, in my area, very good Palestinian neighbors. We have a large population of Muslims, Jewish synagogues side by side with big mosques. All the minicab drivers are Muslims. In our area, about 400 drivers. Well, there are Muslim drivers. We're sending the small children with them to school, to playgroups. I never had any problem. We live together very peacefully. When the mosque want to build up, the Jewish councils help them to get a permit. Same thing when the Jewish synagogues wants to build up, the Muslims help them. Because Jews and Muslims have no problem with each other. The problem is not the religion. We come later to this point. The problem here is the genocide.
Well,
we come maybe later to
that's this. Absolutely, we will come to that. It's a really fascinating context, and I think this is really important. Context on any issue is absolutely important. Most of the discussions and discourses one hears on mainstream media, particularly, frame the context in terms of Israel, or in terms of the Zionist movement and its view of Judaism, its visions of what Jews should and shouldn't be doing. It seems to be an infection which is perpetrated deliberately because of the power of Zionist media. This is what many people argue, that the Barclays brothers in Britain, Rupert Murdoch, you name them, wherever you go, you'll find that there is a money trail or a name trail that ends up with either very strong Zionist sympathizers or out-and-out Zionists. This is something I'm sure we're going to be able to challenge in future programs. But Fra, I'd like to bring you in. Rabbi has given us a fantastic sort of countercultural narrative, a counter-religious narrative to the one we generally hear of. Of course, how it impacts people in Europe and in the West particularly is really interesting, because one of the things that I want to raise with you is the whole notion of anti-Semitism. The ownership of the concept of anti-Semitism has become almost a weapon which really instills fear within institutions in the West. It instills fear amongst media people. It seems to instill fear of saying anything that might end up being construed as anti-Semitic. And this is not necessarily by accident. If the Zionists have such a hold on media, you can see why people will be very, very scared of coming out openly and saying things which will get them labelled anti-Semitic. In fact, we had a whole party, a whole Labour Party, which has been under scrutiny for the last decade or so, and particularly under Jeremy Corbyn. And today we have a Labour Party which is arguably neutered and cannot say what it wants to say on Palestine or any issue of justice around the world. What's your take on this? How heavily has this impact of Zionism had on the mindset of Jews and non-Jews alike, especially in the West?
Thank you very much. I think it's an excellent question. What I'd like to say is to preface and maybe put a context around what I'm going to say. From my perspective, Zionism is a political ideology. It was born out of anti-Semitism anti-Semitism in Europe. We had from 1902 onwards the Jewish National Fund buying land in Palestine from absentee landlords, the Ottomans. They were moving Jewish emigres onto that land over 120 years ago. And even then, the land was for Jewish immigrants. There were no Arabs, Palestinians, or Muslims allowed to work that land. I'm just making the point that this is the beginning of the apartheid regime that we witness today in its genocidal impact upon Gaza. But if you want to go from the past to the future, if you want to talk specifically about what it means to be a modern politician, we are told from the moment of our birth, through the education system, through the media, through television, through the radio, and through the printed press, that we live in a democracy, that every 4 years we have the opportunity to remove the government of the day and replace it. But what has evolved over the years is politics in Europe and the West generally, moving from a dichotomy of right and left to a more centralized body politic. And then it has moved consistently to the right. We have seen the consolidation within the media, where once upon a time there might have been hundreds of separate newspapers, tens of radio stations, or perhaps hundreds of radio stations. But the mainstream media in the form of the television has always been controlled by the state in Britain and across Europe. So what we have is a convergence of the political elite along with the media elite, who are all in bed with the corporate elite. And it appears more and more that whoever has the money controls the consensus that is created within society via the media. So the media is a propaganda tool. The media is used in order to control the minds of the citizens of whatever country it happens to operate in. So you mentioned Murdoch. We also had Maxwell. These weren't just British moguls of the media industry here. They were in Australia. They were in America. They are huge global corporates that manage the news kind of throughout the global West. So what we have is the control of the public narrative through the propaganda of the media. So whoever owns the media basically owns the social space that people inhabit and people learn and get their day-to-day facts and news from. So if you put on the BBC, or you put on ATV News, or you put on Sky News, or you put on Channel 4, you're going to get the same narrative, like a rainbow effect, across that whole bridge of the media. So the media is a propaganda tool that is in tandem between the government and between the people who own the media outlets. And they then together have a joint agenda, both domestic and foreign, which they then promote through the use of the media. So money, being the root of all evil, is also the catalyst that runs the machinery, not only of the military-industrial complex, but also the media-industrial complex. So if you own the media, then you own the opportunities to basically brainwash the people who follow your media output as to what's happening in the world, who's good, who's bad, who's right, who's wrong, who's evil, who's good. We saw all the propagation around the Iraq war, the weapons of mass destruction, the Taliban being held responsible for 9/11. So we do have this narrative in the public. So if you own the media, then we must discuss who owns the media. You talked about Maxwell. Was he a Mossad agent? Did he fall off the boat? Was he pushed? We look at Epstein and we look at Ghislaine Maxwell and see the influence they have with celebrities and with politicians and monarchies throughout the West and especially in America. So I personally believe we have a combination of like blackmail, a convergence of the elite whose wealth depends on war and imperialism and the theft of resources from other sovereign independent nations. So the media is used in order to create this discourse within the public. You see American would-be presidential candidates going to Jerusalem to show fealty at the Wailing Wall. I don't know why an American president feels it's so necessary that he must go there almost to prove allegiance to the Israeli state before he will prove allegiance to his own citizens in his own state. We had Starmer do something similar. We have Macron and others. We have political friends of Israel in every Western country and throughout society. So we have an infiltration of Israeli Zionist intelligence and Israeli Zionist influence through AIPAC and others upon the internal political mechanisms within the West. So for a group of people that has such a small proportion of the world's population to have such a large impact on such a larger number of humanity, more governments than you could shake a stick at, it proves that money and blackmail and influence and a convergence, I guess, more than anything, between the imperialist agenda of the West, which sees Israel as its footprint in West Asia, in the Middle East. We could talk about the Balfour Agreement. I'm sure it's going to come up in the conversation. We can talk about Sykes-Picot. We can talk about how when the Balfour Agreement was written, the then Home Secretary, I believe, of Britain said that they would have a loyal little Ulster in the Middle East. So the whole idea of the Zionist project, which was a result of European anti-Semitism, no one within the Ummah and the Levant and West Asia has ever really been accused of anti-Semitism that I'm aware of. Zionism grew as a result of European anti-Semitism. They then decided that they would kind of decamp to Palestine in order to create a safe haven. But what they did was sow the seeds of division throughout the Ummah. Palestinians are not responsible for European anti-Semitism. They are not responsible for the Holocaust and the Second World War. Yet today, Palestinians and now the Lebanese and now the Syrians and now the Iraqis and now the Yemenis and now the Iranians are all suffering because of European anti-Semitism. The people who were not the perpetrators of anti-Semitism have become, by extension, their victims. And Western imperialism now uses Zionism and the Israeli state as a bulwark to divide the Ummah in order to sow division and prevent any form of unity through sectarianism within the Ummah in order to protect its ongoing theft of resources within the region. The West was built on the impoverishment of the global South. That's something which they wish to continue.
Well, packed a lot of points in there, some fantastic points to unpick. I'll begin, I think, with perhaps Unit 8200, something that I've researched personally quite some time ago, and it's coming more and more to light, that the capability of Zionism and Israel and the Zionist global infrastructure, which often, of course, one gets accused of launching conspiracy theories about. Conspiracy theory itself is a CIA term, used, it was coined by the CIA, that's official on record, in order to basically vilify anybody who tried to get to the real truths of what the deep state was doing. So this connection between Zionism, money power, Israel and America and the deep state is something I think which still people don't have enough knowledge of. Unit 8200 is an actual unit which operates for Mossad, and it produces some of the most talented cyber technicians around the world, to the point where over the last 10, 15 or 20 years, what we find is most of the highest level of cyber tech industry is controlled by the CEOs who are from Unit 8200. There are lots of examples one could give, and there's going to be perhaps a whole program that we need to do on this. But that's just one method of controlling spaces and systems. We've heard about the media very thoroughly, but Rabbi, I'm going to come back to you on this. This huge nexus of control and power and money, which seems to now be in the camps, began with perhaps the Rothschilds, and the model which the Rothschilds, who were ultimately very, very integral to the creation of Israel, and were also opposed by Neturei Karta back in even 1916. I read a few instances where some of the early founders of your movement opposed even then this idea of creating a Zionist state. So tell us a little bit about the origin stories, especially in terms of the involvement of European pseudo-Jewry, because not everybody would accept the Rothschilds as actual Jews, rather like your initial narrative. What's your thought?
Usually I'm not going in this topic. I don't think so. It could be that the Zionist happens to go in line with the Rothschilds, but I don't think they have any direct connection. The Zionists have their own idea of controlling the world. That's what the Zionists controlling the world. It's only because they are a new movement, small, tiny movement, and they want to survive. And they want to survive 100 millions of Arabs, all the Arab nations around. Yeah, they're around, full with Arab countries, how they survived. So they must use many tricks how to come over all this problem. But I don't think that it comes really from the point of the Rothschilds with controlling the world. This is something different. It's true that today they are controlling the whole world. In America, everybody knows the AIPAC. They're very, very strong in there. They're working with money tricks. They're taking the money from the Americans, take taxpayers, terrorize all the Congress people and the people of the Senate. And whoever looks here in England, the Board of Deputies and the other people what they try to control. And one of the strongest weapons is the term of anti-Semitism, what is used falsely by them, like our friend says, that even what's happened, whatever it's happened for 80 years ago in Europe, the Palestinians didn't have to pay the bill for that. They didn't do that. Jews have a golden life in all Palestinians, all the Muslim countries. You mentioned it before. Everybody knows a bit history, knows in Europe there were so many persecutions, so many blood libels, and in the Muslim world you never heard nothing about it. If you hear something, it's nothing. When you compare it to Europe, it's nothing. We have a golden life in the Muslim countries, but the Zionists take that using that falsely, the term of anti-Semitism. I just wonder myself every time what the mainstream media label all these rallies, hate rallies, anti-Semitic. And what they done to Jeremy Corbyn, I know Jeremy Corbyn for the last 30, 40 years. Yes, we worked together with him. He is not anti-Semite at all. He helping so many Jewish people. He really loved Jews. I'm working with him very closely, very closely. But they give him a label of anti-Semitism. They're using all these terms, and I cannot understand how people can be so blind that just today's an open wall. Just take a flight to Morocco, Tunis, Algeria, Turkey, to Iran. Iran is the biggest enemy of Israel. There's a beautiful Jewish community of 35,000 Jews living in Iran, free. They don't know what anti-Semitism is. They never experienced it.
So your dream would be to go back to pre-Zionist Israel, the way Jews were living in all these nations.
100%.
Is that what you want?
I myself, I'm born in Palestine. I'm already 7 generations from Palestine. I want to go back there. I didn't want to live under the Zionist regime. My whole family gone out, like tens of thousands of Jewish people has gone out since the creation of the state. Here in Stamford Hill, you have just in the last 10 years, hundreds of families that came out from there. They didn't want to live there. I want to go back. This is my country, but under a Palestinian government, not under a Jewish government. Jews are in exile, as I explained to you before, by divine decree. We are not taking back the land with force. The land should go back for the Palestinians from the river to the sea. And I want to live there as a Jewish Palestinian. I mean, of course, I want to go back there and I want to see the whole land going back to Palestinians. Really, from the Jewish perspective, I don't see any solution, any other solution. Again, I'm not a politician. I'm speaking from the point of religion. In the Torah it's written, a rebellion against God cannot be succeed. And that you see with your own eyes. Look, the state of Israel already 76 years. Yes? How many countries has been established in the 76 years? 50, 60. Everybody have peace. The only place where they know peace even one single day in the state of Israel. This is the finger of God to show they haven't got peace. They will never have peace. And they try to make the roadmap, Oslo, Camp David, I don't know how many try to make 2 states. They never succeed. And they will never succeed. Because it's written in the Torah, in the references in Numbers 14, verse 41. A rebellion against God cannot be succeed. The state of Israel will come to an end. We hope and pray to a peaceful end. Nobody looks for bloodshed. But that is, of course, what we're looking for. We're looking to Palestine to go back, to be given back for the Palestinians. They should rule the whole land from the river to the sea. And of course, it doesn't mean the Jews have to be killed. Jews have to be expelled. We can live there like we live in Iran, like we live in Morocco. I say every time, I was in Morocco a few years ago. I just crossed the border from Spain into Morocco. I passed the Mediterranean Sea, and I think Ceuta, it's called, the piece of Spain. When I come over the border, the Moroccan people come to me, Rabbi, bless my children. I couldn't understand. After 70 years of killing, 70 years of genocide, 70 years of occupation, the Arab land, still, Rabbi, bless my children. How can people be so blind and blame the Muslim world with anti-Semitism? It's an open wall. Take a flight for a couple of £100. Go to Iran, go to Morocco, go to Tunis, go to Turkey. You will see beautiful Jewish communities there. It's completely false to blame the Muslims with anti-Semitism. We have the best life in the Muslim lands, and this can happen again. Even in Palestine, both parties, Hamas and Fatah, declared openly, we have no problem with Jews. I have to tell you a very interesting story. Just the beginning of this year, now it's 1 year ago, I think in January, we met Ismail Haniyeh in Turkey. There was a conference, and we didn't know that he will come, but he came up. when he saw our Jewish rabbis, he told them to come up. He embraced them. He told, I want to show that rabbis like this, we have no problem. They are welcome in our future Palestine. We have a problem with the occupiers. We have a problem with the genocide. Just imagine what will happen if here in England will happen such an occupation. Yes, such a genocide. It will be much more worse than what happened in Palestine. Yeah, I mean, everybody hates in fighting against the occupier, but haven't got nothing to do with Judaism. How they just brainwashing people with the label of antisemitism after the Holocaust, what Jews have gone through, and 6 million Jews has been killed. The Zionists use this tool, and I can't understand how people can be so blind. What this Holocaust have to do with the Palestinians? The Palestinians didn't make the Holocaust.
Well, the Holocaust that's going on now, Rabbi, I think it's more child amputees in Palestine or in Gaza in this last year and a half than anywhere else on the planet. There are over 17,000 children who've been basically murdered, mass murdered. There has been a complete cleansing of the north of Gaza, certainly 1.9 million Palestinians displaced. Fra, I'm going to come to you on this. I could go on with more and more statistics because it's endless, 10, 12,000 prisoners. When will this nightmare end? How can it end? What do you see in terms of solutions? Rabbis talked about going back to pre Israel, the formation of Israel as the ideal state in which basically a Palestine exists and all peoples live in there in harmony and in peace. Can you see that happening, or is this two-state solution still on the table, or is it the Jewish supremacist state, the Zionist Jewish supremacist state, as envisioned by Smotrich, Bibi Netanyahu, and various others? Which way do you think will the future go?
Well, you mentioned the two-state solution. I would rather look at potentially, sadly, two different outcomes. You're not going to have a Palestine one state where everyone is treated with equality under the Constitution. We're talking about a colonization. We're talking about the theft of land. We're talking about broken homes, broken lives, broken arms, and broken dreams of the Palestinian people. I look at the colonization of Palestine as a white European land theft and resource theft operation, very similar to what happened in North America, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. None of those indigenous people have ever been treated equally under the Constitution. There are still cases of American Native women disappearing near the reservations, their bodies not being found, almost as if there's an ongoing campaign to murder and subjugate and oppress the indigenous populations. So the way I see Israel today is that what you have is a white colonial occupation. So the white colonial occupation of America wiped out tens of millions of indigenous people. They did the same in South America when the Portuguese and the Spanish didn't colonize but militarily occupied those areas. What you have through Zionism, which I see as completely separate to Judaism, as I've said, I see it as a political ideology. It uses supremacism as a form of bringing about internal unity among those advocates of Zionism. We could also point out to the fact that not all Zionists are Jews and not all Jews are Zionists. So we can make that separation as well. But I think it's important to view what not just Netanyahu and not just Smotrich and not just the war cabinet, I by extension include all of Israeli social society. It is the war cabinet who sets the war aims, but it's the sons and daughters, the brothers and sisters, and the mothers and fathers of everyone in Israel who's in the IOF, who is carrying out these acts of genocide. We've seen the stuff on social media, on TikTok. We've seen people celebrating the destructions of homes. We've seen and heard of snipers who are shooting 5-year-olds in the head, almost as a game to see how many people they can kill, how many children they can end up having amputated limbs. So we have a supremacist, I would argue, fascist political ideology that does not see the Palestinian or the Arab or the Muslim, or for that matter, the Christian. If you watch what's happening at Bethlehem, if you watch what's happening in East Jerusalem, if you're watching the destruction of Christian churches in Israel, in the West Bank, and in Gaza, you'll see that there is a supremacist political ideology which does not value the other as being human. So much like all fascist ideologies, they treat the other as the Übermensch. They treat them as subhuman. Once you dehumanize people, you can do whatever you want. If you remember that Netanyahu invoked Amalek, where you would murder every man, woman, child, suckling baby, and animal that people could survive on. This is ethnic cleansing. This is genocide being invoked by a political leader of a political party within what I see increasingly as a right-wing, pseudo-neo-fascist society that cares nothing for anyone who is not Israeli, who is not a Zionist, and even then I would question their support for non-Jewish Zionists, and they have no respect, sadly, in my opinion, for human life, which is why we're watching the destruction that we're seeing. So while the Israeli state exists in the position and the matter and the psychology of which it is today, there will not only be no peace in Gaza, there will be no peace in Lebanon, there will be the continuation of the Zionist project of the expansionist Israeli state. We have witnessed terror from 1948 and the Nakba and the Naksa, and we've witnessed the destruction of Gaza, turning it into a car park. This all began before 1948. It all began before 1917. It all began from 1888, and the first Zionist Congress in Basel in Switzerland was held. So while Israeli society continues to move to the right, there will be no safety or security anywhere in West Asia so long as the West, the white supremacist Anglo-Saxons in America, in Britain, in France, in Germany, in Italy, in Hungary, in other countries, protect and also arm and financially support the Israeli state, there'll be no peace. How you bring about the end of the Israeli state and its political institutions is something I'm not sure will ever come about so long as the corrupt political system remains not only within the Israeli national state, but within the European Union, within America, within Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and others, until we change the, not the electoral system, but until we change the deep state, which is in bed with the corporate elite, who are raping the world of its resources so that the money goes to the few and not upon the needs of the many. This convergence of capitalism, imperialism, and colonialism, so long as that continues, I sadly see no end in sight. I see more deaths. I see more destruction. I see a further polarization of the global society between the global south and what we'll call basically the global north, for the sake of conversation. Until that changes, outside of revolutions, I don't sadly see anything changing except more death and destruction for anyone who stands up against Israeli Zionist exploitation and expansionism within the region. While Israel exists, I see no peace.
Well, that's a bleak prediction. I think the Zionists, I have to say, if from a Zionist perspective, they've argued for the whole year and a half about self-defense. They argued that they are countering what the H group said, or did rather, in October 7th. They'll say that we were attacked by the Arabs as soon as Israel was formed. They'll argue that it's their homeland, it's a place which was always theirs, and they have an absolute right. These are all arguments. Of course, Zionism has a very large amount of traction with the general global media, which we've already discussed, they have a huge influence on. But Rabbi, to wrap things up, in conclusion, you've heard from Fra a very sort of dire prediction of more of what we've seen basically over the last year and a half. What do you think is the way forward? As a devout Jew, as somebody who clearly wants a peaceful coexistence with Arabs and with Muslims, you've made that very clear in this session. What would you say to the Zionist fraternity? What would you say to them now as a Jew speaking to those people who also regard themselves as Jews? They will say we're Jews. What would be your message?
What your message will be to Islam traitors? I haven't got any message to them. I have the message to them. I didn't want to say what my message is. However, the nice message I can say to them, please repent to God. Remember, you are Jews. Repent to God. See what God wants from you. They don't listen to me because they are secular. They don't believe in God. But I'm a Jewish rabbi. I'm coming from the Jewish perspective, not from the political perspective. But from the political perspective, I can just tell them, please, look. How do you think? What do you think where this will take you? What is your destination? The situation get only worse and worse and worse. You cannot occupy people, stay on their heads, killing them and silence them. Look, when they take over the land in 1948, in that time it was, I didn't remember how many refugees, but today
70,000, I think, people.
Yes, and today it comes up to 10 million. What's going to be in 10 years, in 10 years, in 20 years? They cannot kill all of them. They cannot silence them. The problem will only go worse and worse and worse. There is no way, again, from my Jewish perspective, to rebel against God. It will not lead you anywhere. It will only lead to bloodshed and to disaster. Really, that's what our rabbis say before the creation of the state, for 100 years ago. One of our leading rabbis called the Chofetz Chaim, he say, no, it will not be a state. They will not establish a state. They will not succeed. Then he say, if they will establish, they will only bring bloodshed after bloodshed. And that's what we see today. The whole state of Israel is one big disaster. And there is no end to this bloodshed. And when you think about a solution, you have to understand the state of Israel, without the support of the US, of the EU, United Kingdom, our country and other countries, they cannot live even one day. And why Israel, why the US and the EU and England supporting so much Israel? Because they have a guilty feel about what's going to, about the Holocaust, and we have to help Jews, and blah, 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 something like that. But when they will realize that the state of Israel didn't bring any safeness for Jewish people, the Zionists, one of the strong propaganda is we have to save Jews. Jews need to have a safe country. We are saving Jews. We are giving them a safe haven. Now, just open the eyes. Look where the most danger place today for a Jew to live. For a Jew, the state of Israel. Go all over the whole world. I say every time, I live in England nearly 40 years. I don't know how an English soldier looks like. I never saw them. I don't know the uniform. This means a safe country. In Israel, a small child of 2 years, seeing daily life, soldiers, weapons, tanks. This is crazy. This is security. Did they bring any safeness for Jewish people? Did they save Jews from anti-Semitism all over the world? When I walking here in the street and I hear behind me, Hitler, Hitler, I know he watched yesterday a video of Gaza. Did they save Jewish people from anti-Semitism? They are just igniting the fire of anti-Semitism all over the world. And they just brought in all the Jewish people into danger. And it gets worse and worse and worse. I come back to the point when USA and UK and EU will recognize that the state of Israel is not a favor for Jewish people in any way. They only is a disaster. They only bring bloodshed and bloodshed, endless bloodshed for Jews and Muslims together. They will stop supporting it. They will stop supporting that. And when they will not support, automatically the state of Israel will fall. Again, we are looking for a peaceful dismantlement. And this can be, people say, how you can speak peaceful? There will be millions of killings. I give them an example. In UN, you have to remember that. In the USSR, for 35 years ago, there was such a strong power. People think to bring an end of this power, it will cost millions of lives. It didn't cost even one single life. And the same thing in South Africa. People think this will cost so many lives. It costs, but not so much. That shows, that proves that if there is a will, there is a way. When the United States and the UK and the EU will understand that the state of Israel is not a favor for Jews, this only brings disaster for Jewish people, they will find the way how to bring a peaceful end to this state. And again, from the point of view of the Torah, it will happen anyway. In the Torah it's written, a rebellion against God cannot be succeed. We hope and pray for a peaceful dismantlement, but it will happen.
Well, some profound words from Rabbi Beck. On that note, we're going to be concluding this fascinating discussion, but so much really points to the Jews themselves around the world, the Jewish diaspora. Perhaps it's time to reconsider. Perhaps it is time to go back to the way Jews were with Muslims and in the Arab world those many, many decades before Zionism appeared on the scene. Perhaps it's time for the backers of Zionism, the Americans, the British, the Europeans, to reconsider misplaced guilt and loyalties, which the rabbi has also elucidated very eloquently. Perhaps it's time to look also with justice at the people in West Asia and not to consider them as lesser human beings than either Jews, Zionist Jews, or white people in Europe. Perhaps it's time for us to look at our own moral compass again. Certainly the people of the West have voted with their feet, demonstration upon demonstration across the world. The withdrawal of positive attitudes towards Jewry in generally. We've seen this across social media. We're witnessing this in the way people are voting. Poll after poll has been done in which the opinions about Israel are not favorable at all. And in fact, they're very, very antagonistic. This is what I guess war ultimately and imperialism and ethno-supremacism leads to. And perhaps that's the only thing that we as ordinary people can do, because it's the powers that be that have the money, they have the control, and they have the political will or the facilities to change the direction of the future. What needs to happen, though, very clearly, is that a change of trajectory from war upon war. The forever wars, which are there designed for plunder and designed to subjugate and designed to enslave, simply use religion, it seems to me, whether it's ISIS using Islam, or whether it's Zionism using Judaism, or whether it's Christian Zionists using Christianity. It seems that religion can also be used just as nationalism, ethnicity, and even any other kind of belief system. It's time the world changes, and I think it's been a fascinating discussion. Thank you very much, Fra, for your very profound inputs, and thank you very much, Rabbi Beck, for your perspective from the Jewish point of view, a very, very refreshing perspective, which gives me hope, and hopefully it gives you some hope as well for the future.